You will legitimately be shocked to hear what I witnessed Joe Biden do. Seriously, you're going to be shocked. Welcome to the Jason Rantz Show, presented by None Better Tax Resolution. Now, I'll be honest, I was hesitant to tell people of my experiences with Joe Biden in the aftermath of that disastrous press conference a couple weeks ago, following that disastrous Robert Hur report that called him a doddering old man who can't remember his own name. And then, of course, this week, we see him almost tripping going upstairs again, twice. Now, as expected, a bunch of surrogates and officials took to TV to defend Joe Biden. And some are pointing to this one clip as remarkably over the top.
The most difficult part about a meeting with President Biden is preparing for it, because he is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
But is it truly over the top? I don't want to say anything because I thought you'd accuse me of defending Joe Biden. But I do feel called to at least be honest here, because the one thing you know about me, particularly of my anecdotes, I always tell the truth and can actually add to the conversation. You see, I once met Joe Biden not long ago. This was back in 2021. This was a year after inauguration. Now, I happened to be in DC for CPAC, and the Biden White House, they called me over. They like to reach out to conservative media leaders every so often, I think mostly to soften us up, or at least try to. So I get there, I go through security, I leave a baggie of cocaine in one of the cubbies, and I get escorted into a conference room. It was me and some others I didn't recognize. I was told they sometimes appear on CNN or MSNBC as conservative talking heads, which explains why I don't know who they are. So we're waiting there. It's a bit awkward. You get the small talk going. At one point, Karine Jean-Pierre pokes her head in and she awkwardly laughs. She says hello, and then she leaves. It was really, really weird. But then all of a sudden, Joe Biden bursts through the doors. I kid you not, the doors almost fell off their hinges. That's how powerful he was. He sits down, and he had this huge book in his hands. It looked as old as time itself. And it turns out it was a first edition copy of the Iliad and the Odyssey that he got directly from Homer himself. So he points to this book, and he says, "You know what this is?" And obviously I did, but I didn't want to say anything because he obviously wanted us all to say no so he can make the big reveal. So we said no. And he told us, it's the Iliad. And he slid the book my way. He just pushed it across the conference room table. He asked me to pick it up and then pick a random page in the book. Now, this is a book that's 1,264 pages. So I said 712. I don't know why. That's the number that popped in my head. And he told me to open it up to that page. So I did. And he started to recite words that at first, it kind of sounded like gibberish. And I remember it like it was yesterday. He said, "Precipice high, of ledges the overfail stream, crystal whose spring, some from eyes, his from welling tears with Achilles, to near drew Patroclus, then Protrellus of ship, the about fight they did thus." He was reciting it backward. And then he said, and I'm never going to forget this, "Alors Patrol s'approche d'Achille, les larmes jaillisson de ses yeux, comme d'une source dont léger cristallon tombe sur los rebords de fond, hunt precipice." He recited the Iliad from memory backward and in French. Guys, he just learned French that morning. So anyone who tells you that he's not up to this task, he's too old, he doesn't have the mental acuity, okay, just know they're lying to you. Jason Rantz here with Greg Nunn, your local tax expert and advocate. Greg, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, Jason, great to be with you again and talk about these tax issues.
So some folks out there have the IRS calling them nonstop or even coming to their door. What do you recommend they do?
You are protected by statute, by law, that when you have representation, they have to deal with your representative. And I am acting in your best interest when I'm dealing with the IRS. And I tell you, you don't want to talk to them, it'll just stress you out.
If you're having trouble with the IRS, then call Greg Nunn. Greg might be able to negotiate a settlement for up to 85% off the original amount owed, and that includes penalties and interest. Call Greg Nunn today. Did you like that commentary? Make sure you subscribe to the podcast of The Jason Rantz Show. Get it at kTTH.com or wherever it is you download your podcasts.